Renee, Chris, and Ryan going live. Best podcast, Beauty and the Beast. Sit back and catch a vibe. Oh yeah, we talking zombies and apocalypses and all those things you like. Going beast mode, and if you didn't know, it's P to Z up on the mic. Whoa, hey, TWD family, grab the snacks about the pantry and subscribe and like if you can, please. Or those walkers eat you like some candy. Hey, okay. You at the right place at the right time. No one does it better, that's the bottom line. Beauty and the Beast, this is prime time. Let's go.
That was such a great time for us to go live. Well, live, I guess. But yeah.
Was it me going, shut up?
It may have just been before that, but yeah. Yeah.
But here we are now.
And now we're back.
We're here.
Yeah. Hey, dumbass. Yeah, you in the tank. That's where we left off, right? I mean, that's how we...
Yeah, that last, yeah.
It's crazy seeing Glenn, that baby face.
I know it. So I guess we should tell them what we're looking at. We should probably tell anyone listening.
Probably. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you know what? No. You could read the title and you could read the description. No, I'm just kidding.
We're recapping Guts.
Yeah. Season 1, episode 2.
So yeah, we're checking out the second episode of The Walking Dead, Guts.
No.
Yes, Guts. Introduction to a lot of people, obviously.
Yeah.
Glenn saves Rick, and then, there's lots of running. Renee, you pointed out that during them running through the buildings and everything, one of the things that you pointed out that I didn't even notice was the fact that, as we touched on on the first episode, where the walkers had kind of like lingering, I don't know, memories of things maybe, where Jenny was playing with the doorknob at the house, and then in this one, you notice that the walkers actually tried going up the ladder to follow Rick and Glenn. We also have the one bashing the door with the brick.
There's actually two of them.
Yeah. So what would do you have a third one? Was there a third one in there?
No, I just think the two maybe, but when I look back at my other notes on my phone, I only have the two, and I thought there was a third I noticed, but I didn't put it down. So
one thing I will
nobody knows. What?
Is the walkers, and I know this is going to be a repeating theme for season 1 for obvious reasons, but the walkers are so much louder in season 1. I mean, after season 1, they're all just kind of, but like now they're like,
oh yeah,
like, oh my god.
Well, now Horde's there, it's loud. Yeah, it is loud. Yeah, for sure.
Now, do we know during the first season, was that all piped in audio like they did for the later seasons, or did they actually let the actors and use the actors' sounds? Like, do we know?
I guess I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that, but
because obviously a lot of that was created sound later down.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was more of a acting thing, possibly, but I think a lot of things, like if we just look at these, it's a lot of it had to do with Frank Darabont. You know what I mean? I think that's just things he wanted to do differently than the next showrunner, know? And so I just attribute a lot of that, but I've never, that's a good question. I'd have to do some searching on that and see, but it would be interesting.
That could be why too. If they were using real live audio from the actors, maybe that could be a reason why. I'm not sure. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility.
It's a very good possibility.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I really wish we had just kept those walkers, man.
Oh, I know. It'd be so cool.
I mean, it was so much more. I don't want to say scary because I'm an adult, but like, it's like more believable. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. These are supposed to be bloodthirsty, ravenous zombies, and at the end we get the senior shuffleboard, walkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but that's the ones I want. If we really have an undead apocalypse, I want the Walking Dead slow moving guys. I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about real life, of course. But if I get to sit behind a TV screen and eat popcorn while everyone else gets chased, then I'm gonna do it.
True. But it would have been cool. That would have been really neat to expand the whole dynamic of it. If they did have some of that cognitive, they retained some of that cognitive thought and things, they could, they could have done a lot different things with it.
Yeah.
Would somebody remember? Would one of them, I don't know, maybe not be attacked by the virus as much or something, and be able to remember people, or you know what I mean? Like there could have been a lot of potential there to kind of explore some of the things. I don't know.
That's one reason why I love Zombieland 2 so much. Is because there's such a variety of zombies. You know what I mean? They have like the Einsteins and the Homers, the T-1000s or whatever they call them.
T-900s.
T-900s, yeah.
That's what Oscar was.
Oscar was one of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep. It was cool to see the variety, like how you have to approach each one differently. You know.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of those things where like we watched The Walking Dead, we were fine with that. Then all these other shows, movies, and things like that started kind of make him a little different. So then it's like, oh crap, The Walking Dead could have done that. But I mean, I think overall it was good that Walking Dead kept them. I do wish they would have been like season 1, but overall I think because again, The Walking Dead's more about the survivors than actually the undead. But
it's important to know that later, eventually the motto of the show became "Fight the dead, fear the living." Right? That was the whole point, right?
Absolutely. One thing when I had rewatched this episode for a little while, but it reinforced how much I can't stand Andrea. Oh my gosh. Laurie Holden, wonderful.
I was just
person.
gonna say I love Laurie, but damn, I hate Andrea.
But Andrea, and I mean, I know, again, we go back to shows you what a great actor they are, but good night. She just.
You know what? I felt. Can I? Upon rewatch, did anybody get like uncomfortable, cringy with the whole sex scene with Laurie? And Shane?
Oh my gosh, that was
like. I rewatched
terrible secondhand embarrassment.
I was like, "This is really uncomfortable." Like,
a little bit of
trivia. Takes the necklace off with the wedding ring.
I know, and they're both staring at it.
I'm like, oh,
gross. But bit of trivia. You may all know this, but I'm going to repeat it. And I think it was like 2017, somewhere in there, John Bernthal did an interview with comicbook.com, and that scene got brought up, and he said that he had read the script and he was like, this is going to be like a primal thing. It's a it's going to be survival sex and blah, blah, blah. And so he's doing his thing and somebody behind the camera yells, "Stop thrusting." So he got in trouble for being too vigorous, I guess.
That's so funny.
I was just like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's like I was at New York Comic Con the year that they announced John Bernthal as Punisher in Daredevil, right? Mm-hmm. And so they brought out John Bernthal, and he did like a Q&A session with the fans. And at Comic-Con, you have a line of people, and they step up to the microphone, right? And so the moderator tells the person to go ahead or whatever, and he goes, all right, so I'm not going to lie, this is not a comic book question, this is a Walking Dead question. He's like, all right. And they're like, is Judith? He goes, mine, next question. I was like, oh my god, amazing. I love it.
That was great. That was great. He knew what was coming. Yeah, he'd heard that one before. Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard a whole convention hall just laugh that loud.
I'm sure.
It was so funny.
I'm sure. But yes, that whole scene was just so I didn't like it. Yeah,
so cringe. I was like, God, I can't. I was like, I just fast forward by.
I was gonna say, I hit the 30-second button a couple times.
Yeah, I'm good.
I think I ran and I watched it this morning, so I ran and got more coffee. I was like, I know what's happening here.
Yeah.
Another cool thing, I always like to read the trivia and things, and a lot of this we already know, but it's just fun to re-talk about it and stuff. But when Roker was shooting up on the roof, like they knew, they had their permits, they had all this stuff, but somebody didn't understand what was going on, thought he was a sniper, and a SWAT team was actually called to downtown Atlanta for the sniper off the roof.
Holy shit.
So somewhere some permits got crossed, somebody didn't get their information like they should have or whatever. But yeah, so I just think that's just crazy. And I bet Michael Rooker just thought that was the coolest thing.
I was just gonna say,
I'm sure he did.
He ate that shit up so much.
He's like, that was all for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So anyway, that's a fun little piece of trivia.
Yeah. I mean, the introduction of Merle, right? I mean,
oh my god.
It's
yeah, it's like every other word out of his mouth, I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
And it's funny too, because Michael Rooker couldn't be the exact, it couldn't be any more the exact opposite of Merle Dixon.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. I still love when Chris and I were at Walker Stalker, and I forgot which one. I want to say maybe Chicago, and
were you through the stool?
We were. we were online for Scott Wilson, and so Scott and Michael were next to each other at their tables, and Scott's just, I mean, most beautiful human being in the world, and he's trying to give his attention to the fan that he's signing an autograph for. He's like, he's signing a like a Herschel pop or whatever, and Michael's taking Sharpies and he's throwing them at Scott. He took a empty water bottle, threw it at him, and he finally took a stool and like threw it behind Scott. And like Scott goes, Michael, would you stop it? And he was like, make me, you know. And I was like, oh my god, it was so funny.
I think it was Chicago too, where he actually walked around with a camera.
Oh yeah, he stole someone's camera.
He stole someone's camera.
Yeah,
who was like, you know, just a person there took it and started parading around
and like selfieing like a camcorder.
Yeah.
They when I think it was a Walker Strucker in Chicago. This was a different year or whatever, but Michael Rooker was finishing up the Dixon Brothers photo shoot with Norman, and we were in line to meet Norman. And so they finish it. They're trying to tell us stuff. They're trying, sorry, it's been, you know, everything was, you know, it's always delayed. It's always the time, whatever. So they're all trying to tell us this. And then Michael Rooker peeks through the curtain and jumps out in front of everybody standing in line waiting for Norman, and gets the crowd all wound back up again. And they're trying to calm everybody down. I'm like, he's just always trying to cause trouble. Yeah. But it was so funny because we were kind of back, but he like you know, he was, you know, talking to some of the people, getting selfies with him up there in the front of the line. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, he's just always.
I feel like him and Stephen Ogg, man, those two together, like, and even on social media, they're always half naked or full naked, and they're like out in the wilderness somewhere doing something, and I'm just like,
yeah. Well, then you have that, and then Stephen Ogg is sitting there with his dad, and he's taking care of him, you know, and I'm like, he's just, he's just.
I'm like, wait a minute, 2 hours ago you were out in the middle of the desert with a cowboy hat on, like.
That's all you had on, But anyway, we digress again.
Yeah, that's okay.
But let's see, we were talking about SWAT team on the roof and that and whatever, and then.
Well, yeah. So we have Merle, who obviously Rick was introduced to.
Yeah.
And shortly after, handcuffs him to the top of the mountaintop while T-Dog sits there with the radio and watches. You know, like. Going back to like actual facts of like the early seasons and stuff, when I do know that they definitely auditioned and brought in a ton of live walkers, and they show a lot of the aerial stuff for them in the streets and stuff. I would love to like actually be able to like maybe talk to somebody who might have been a part of that and be like, you know, was that really 100, 200 people down there in the streets, or was some of that digitally prompted in the early seasons? Like we know how it was later on when they did
with the big, the massive hordes they ended up. Yeah. I'm sure that there's somebody out there we can probably get a hold of, and
well, especially because that stuff looked authentic. Like it didn't look really like it was CGI in any way, shape, or form. You know,
and that's, you know, and I mean that's the crazy part, because when you like when they're looking at binoculars and they're scanning the streets and they find the box truck and all that stuff and everything like that, they're everywhere. You know, and then you know, the plan. This is where their plan is. We see the first time that they gut a couple of dead bodies and start smearing themselves with it.
And we also see Rick humanize the walker, which was very interesting. He grabbed a wallet and he said his name was like Wayne Dunlap or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, he died with $28 cash in his wallet, and he has a picture of a beautiful woman, and is like, love Ashley or something like that, and you know, it just like
Glenn says, and he's an organ donor.
And an organ donor.
Gutting him, yeah.
But it was interesting to see, because it's like very rarely in Walking Dead do we see a walker be humanized in any way. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Rick says he's going to tell his family, but we never see him do. And you know, he could have done it scene off camera, but yeah, we never see him tell them about it, like he said he was going to. But yeah, that was interesting. Yeah,
I mean, that was obviously right before they decided to take the fire axe to them and disembowel them and wear their organs.
Yeah.
And who was it that was like, think of kittens or something like that, and Tito was like dead.
Yeah, dead kittens, dead kitties and puppies or whatever.
Kittens or whatever.
I think Rick said it. Think about trying to get Glenn's mind off of it.
Yeah.
But can you and then they're all like the stench. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't deal with smells like that, and Chris knows that from when we worked in a hospital. I mean, I always carried a little thing of Vicks baby rub to put under my nose in certain circumstances, but I couldn't imagine smelling that. That was
No.
oof.
Yeah, that's a little bit much. But yeah, that was the first time they used the Walker Guts trick.
Yeah.
Hence the name of the episode, and they would go on to do it several times.
Several times.
Yeah, and then they do it in Fear the Walking Dead also, or
I want to say they did, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like at least one of the spin-offs did.
Yeah, because wait, was it Fear?
Yeah, I can't remember now.
I'm
looking it up.
If they did it in Fear, it definitely was in the later seasons, I think. Because I don't, the Fear was the outbreak, so I don't think they did anything like that in the first season or two. Or how they even came upon it, honestly.
Oh yeah, because Nick did it. I just was I'm like trying to think in the early seasons. Nick in Fear the Walking Dead. He was like the first one I probably in Fear the Walking Dead. Remember he comes over, they were like on the boat, they're on the Abigail, and he went on the shore, and then I don't know what
so
and then
was that season 1 or season 2?
2, I believe. That's where the Abigail. Oh well.
All right.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's season 2. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But I just remember at least he did it. So yeah.
The Abigail. Oh. I mean,
and
you would think it'd be safe at sea, but
Yeah. Here it says that Travis and Madison did it too, but I don't remember when they did it. It had to be it would definitely have to be early seasons because Travis didn't last real long. But yeah. So anyway, if you haven't watched Fear of the Walking Dead by now, I don't feel bad for spoiling anything.
We can't help you.
Yeah, sorry.
You're definitely gonna hear it all now. I mean, we're back in season 1 for God's sake.
Yeah, not wrong.
So yeah, you might want to turn us off now or whatever. But anyway,
when you do look at the stuff that they use, the props and everything, though, you can definitely tell what's sausage links.
Yeah.
Beef jerky.
They went to the local delicatessen.
They use a lot of jerky and stuff like that. Some sausage links here and there.
It was funny when they put the intestines around. I think it was Glenn that had him around his neck.
Around his neck.
And I'm like that's absolutely sausage. You go to a deli, you go to any kind of city deli, and that's hanging up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't they have a hand tied to it too, or something? Yeah, or but I forget. But yeah.
But I mean, out of all people to send back up to the roof with the handcuff key, why do you send T-Dog?
Yeah.
I just you're already. Are you trying to make things worse?
You mean Mr. Butterfingers?
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah. And then of course, Merle thinks he did it on purpose, and
he obviously just tripped. That was completely you couldn't put that key down that same pipe again if you tried 15 more times.
Not even close.
So, but that led to Merle's story then. So
True. We'll find out about that in some time.
Yeah. I know it's funny because I always wanted to see what happened to Merle, and then about the time I was like, man, if that was what, and there things happened. So
yeah, and the earlier walkers too, as far as the facial decon, everything, the eyes that were sunken in and stuff, a lot of you could tell the season 1 walkers, had just a little bit of blood smeared on their face and a cut here and there or something like that. It definitely wasn't until later on where they started, right after the reanimation and everything, where they would look, completely dead, which I always thought was a little far-fetched and excessive, because it's the person just died and reanimated anywhere between 10 minutes to an hour later, and it looked like they've been dead for 6 years. I was kind of but these ones, they kept it where it's if these people just died and turned, they still look like the person they were, except for where they were bitten or whatever. So
I kind of wish that did play a factor, right? I kind of wish that was the case, where it's if they had just turned, they were kind of looking like themselves, but a little more pale. They had the cloudy eyes and stuff like that. They may have blood out their mouth, or they might have a bite mark on their neck or whatever.
It's sporadic too. it's sporadic too, because with Bicycle Girl, like,
Yeah.
well, how long was she dead for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she was obviously split in half somehow, but you know, like,
Yeah.
how long was she dead for? Because she was decayed.
Yeah.
You know. So, but that, you know, that Georgia's son, it'll
That's true.
you're gonna rot quick.
Yeah.
Between the humidity and the heat. Oof. God.
That's true.
Ugh.
Yeah.
You know when you're like in a hot summer day and you got the windows down and you're enjoying it, and all of a sudden you drive by a carcass
Mm.
and
Yeah.
like it's like one of them deers where its belly is like
Yeah,
you know ready to
bloated.
explode.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I am
the whole-
imagining right now.
Yeah.
The whole planet everywhere you go.
Oh.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Like these herds, man. Oh man.
Yeah.
Be,
Like you wouldn't have to find them. You should be able to smell them a mile before
exactly.
they
Yeah.
get to you.
They're coming. They'll be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I'd be like Woody Harrelson looking for Twinkies, but it'd be me with Vicks Vapor Rub, and I'd be carrying one on me at all times, just under my lip, you know.
Putting that under there.
Oh my god.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't last long in the zombie apocalypse. Just for that reason alone. Oh.
Yeah. Just from the smell.
Oh, absolutely.
It would definitely, like, I would imagine the first couple of months you'd just be retching your brains out every day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Everybody was pretty thin, you know what I mean? Like on the show. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they did throw up a lot.
It probably wasn't good primetime TV to just have them
Yeah.
just repeatedly vomiting. So you know,
Puking everywhere. Yeah.
I guess that's just an assumption we have to make, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you though, from day one, I never liked Lori. Period.
Oh.
Her character, obviously her character.
Yeah.
Nope.
Lori, Andrea, nope, not at all.
Yeah. Could not stand them. I just, first of all, I was like, Lori, you're just a hussy. You know, like you're trying to stay alive, keep her kid alive, but man, your best friend's, your husband's best friend. Come on.
Although I kind of wish that she had lasted as long as her comic book counterpart for the story at least.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, no, wait. No, she would have. Comic book Lori would have died at the prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that?
Yeah. So she lasted about the same time.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Andrea lasted, I think, not as long as she should have.
Oh no, she was through way far into it because
I was referring to Andrea, not Lori, for the record.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrea would have been the one who lasted.
Yeah,
well,
down the road.
if we could have gotten comic book Andrea,
that's what I meant. Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, because I mean, in the end, I like her death was awful. That was just awful to watch.
100%.
I mean, all that went on, and then with Michonne coming in. Oh man, that I mean, there's several characters who I was not a fan of, but their deaths just wrecked me. You know, because it was like, especially like Lori being a mom. It was like, oh my gosh, you could just feel all her, her decision to save her child, or whatever. And yeah, so some of the deaths of the characters I didn't care for, but they really did. It was.
And they spared us a lot of like good deaths too. I mean, out of the comic book, like Father Gabriel, like we never got to see his death.
Yeah, we were all waiting for that. We thought that was Ezekiel. Yeah,
that was a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but
because with Gabriel, they kept showing the damn water tower.
They kept alluding like, oh, look at this, and everybody's waiting for it, but he didn't. But he's he's also one of those characters who I hated in the beginning and loved him by the end.
Right.
He, definitely had a huge change in his story and things. But yeah, definitely Andrea. I would love to have her around longer if we got the comic book Andrea, because she was a badass. She was pretty cool. But whatever, we didn't get that, so we just had to deal with what we had. But
and I mean, per the Atlanta weather, it starts pouring.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, just beautiful, hot, sunny day.
All of a sudden.
Gotta cool everything down quick because everything's on fire at that point. Yeah. But yeah, he has to wash all that off, and then I love it when Glenn gets the charger, and all that, because he was just so excited about that.
It was
I would have
funny
been too.
Yeah, who wouldn't? Yeah, right. Floor it.
I don't know about the alarm being on because that was shitty, but
I mean that was intentional though, right?
Yeah.
That was to draw the walkers, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So no, it served its purpose, but it was very annoying. But then and they got to strip it for parts. When they got back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next episode. Sorry, spoiling for the next
Spoiler.
I mean,
But,
the cool things about episode 2 though is like, I mean, obviously it's big city life, lots of huge population and stuff. I mean, I wish there would have been more of it in the
Yeah.
as the seasons went on. Obviously, it would have been dangerous, but when you're scarce on food, scarce on supplies, scarce on things, I mean, sometimes you got to take a chance and go into like the big cities. I mean, Atlanta, if you could have survived in Atlanta, like in the city, you could have had anything you wanted for a long time.
I mean,
Yeah.
look at New York City, right? In Dead City,
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's cool about Dead City, because we get to see Manhattan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, it's crazy to see those things.
It's cool seeing like them have like the zip lines set up and things like that, so they don't have to go on the street to go to beach building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was cool.
Yeah, and I mean they did. I mean, Atlanta might not have been in the future. It might not have been as bad as it was in the beginning, because a lot of them got out because of them knocking down gates and breaking through the roadways and stuff. So I mean, who knows?
Well, because I think after a while of them not having a food source, they would have just naturally just kind of like dissipated outward from Atlanta.
Sure.
So I think it would have been a lot less populated than it was for sure.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of wish,
like I said, dangerous. Yeah, but
I wish at the end of the show we kind of got to see Atlanta, just as kind of like a fading out thing, just to kind of be like, oh, this is like where we started, this is where we're ending. You know what I mean? Just to be like, just see it.
Yeah.
Because some buildings probably would have collapsed by now because they weren't being maintained properly. You know what I mean?
Be all like Last of Us, how it's all overgrown. I love seeing that, because that's a reality. Or like Will Smith, what's the one?
Oh, I Am Legend.
Yeah, that's all overgrown. And there's like lions and all kinds
of
animals,
lions and deer.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really cool to think nature would just kind of take over. If there weren't humans there to do all that.
Because at that point, I mean, it's been like a decade plus.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's a long time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Last of Us is like 20 years after the virus, so that's what would happen. Because a lot of people would move away thinking to get away from the cities would be safer. It seems to make sense, even though the supplies would be there. But but this episode 2, Rick sees a helicopter, and he says the helicopter, no one believes him, and then that's the last we hear of the helicopter for a very long time.
A very long time.
So it was, so that I thought I kind of had forgotten that until I rewatched. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I did see that. Yeah. So it was interesting too. But it's it's a fun episode, because we go back to that smaller cast that they can concentrate.
Yep.
We got to see little details. We learned, just fun things. Like we learned, like Jackie worked for the zoning for the city zoning for Atlanta, and you think about that, and whatever group that you would end up being with, you would have all these different skills and things, hopefully, so that everybody has their place. But her knowing that, oh hey, there are sewers under here, maybe we can do this, just from her job experience and thing. But it was just fun to see these little things like that, where we could concentrate on just this group of people instead of by the end, I mean, we had great characters. It's not to negate any of the characters or be negative about them. It's just, it was very difficult to keep up, and this, especially season 1, was great, because even season 2, because you just had the farm, so it was always, it's just a lot. But the storytelling is easier to do, I think, when you're a smaller group like that. So it was just fun getting to know this whole batch of new characters that were introduced in this episode. None of they don't all last very long. Some of them do, but some of them don't. But anyway, I was just really, I'm very nostalgic for the earlier seasons with the smaller cast.
Like you said, like, I mean, and they're also like concentrated in one area, so it's not like you're teleporting between Oceanside and Alexandria and and all these different places. They're all together, except for like the group that's outside Atlanta. But
but ultimately it's just that Atlanta group. But it was a good episode, and I was glad to watch it again, because it had been a while, so I enjoyed watching it again.
Man. I know. I'm just like, I have it playing in the background. and Glenn driving the Charger and stuff. It just, God, he looks like he's 12 years old.
I know he looks so young. Yeah, he really does.
They all look young.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, look at freaking Chandler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well, even Rick, look at Rick now in not Last of Us, listen to me, The Ones Who Live. I get my shows mixed up. Whatever reason, that show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I mean, yeah, crazy to see that. And like, sure, I'll see a picture of myself, but it's not like I'm in the media, like you're not on a show where people can see this.
Right.
I can go to first season and go to this, and see that. It just, it's just more out there to see more often, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, we know what happens in episode 3. They reunited.
And it feels not so good.
I know.
Feels so confusing what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's,
a lot of mixed emotions for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Or Shane.
We're getting closer and closer to one of my unironic favorite episodes.
Which one?
The CDC.
Oh, yeah.
I know people
CDC
hate that episode so much, but I love that fucking episode.
I don't like that because I've read several things where people have said that. I think even, was it Kirkman or someone was like, "Oh, I wish we had never done that." Yeah. What? That was so. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up and see. And I just remember there was something that I thought and maybe it wasn't him. Someone said they wish they wouldn't have done that. So I'm seeing if I can search.
That's crazy though, because like, there's things that we learn in that episode that have serious ramifications throughout the rest of Walking Dead and the spin-offs. I mean, we get the classic, we're all infected, which is a mind fuck for everybody. Once Rick tells everybody that, that's the case. We also find out that France was one of the last standing research outposts or whatever, trying to work on the solution. Yeah. And we find that out later on that they eventually got overran, and we also find out that they have variant walkers in France that were super speed, super strength. You know what I mean? And it's like, it makes you think all these things of like, is that all connected back to the CDC episode? Was that part of them trying to find the solution to the walker problem?
Yeah.
I just love it. I really do. I forgot who it was, but somebody had said that, I can't remember if it was Kirkman or I can't remember who said it, but someone said that the show will never be about the cure. That will never be part of the show, as far as like, that will never be the focus of the show. But it's cool because in that scenario, in a realistic scenario like that, there's going to be people who are going to try to return life to what it used to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it was cool to see that there was people working on it. And if it, logically speaking, the CDC would be the group working on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. That's
hold on. No, we would like to think that would be the group working on it. I won't make any assumptions.
Right.
Don't do that.
I did find... Excuse me. I found the article. So it was Hollywood Reporter in 2014.
Oh, wow.
Robert Kirkman reveals his biggest Walking Dead regret. So they, and then it goes on to where a quote from him is, "If I had to do it again, I wouldn't have done the CDC episode. I'm trying to see. It possibly gave away too much information with such a big change very early on in the series."
Wow.
I don't agree with that at all, because I think it was, I mean, I don't know. I thought that was so cool that they found that out, because they, I think people have a hard time remembering the way Robert Kirkman set up the storyline. They didn't know about zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's why they use walkers and geeks and all these other things they use, because
lame brains.
Although, I mean, there's probably 40 different things that people call them, or more. I don't know. But you know what I mean? They that's why they didn't understand. Oh, we got to kill him. Like, we wouldn't, we know, oh, you got to go for the headshot. They didn't know this because they didn't know that lore. They didn't have all that in their, he wrote it that way intentionally, and so they had to learn as they go, kind of thing. And so I thought that was genius to put that in there at that time, because again, Rick doesn't believe it though. He's like, there's no way, this is not a real thing, until Shane. Then he's like,
He's like, oh shit, it's real.
Yeah,
You know?
and that's what and that's why he didn't tell everybody, because he's like, this is absurd. There's no way this is real. That's he can't. That can't be true.
Yeah.
And so and then Kirkman would go on to say, I feel like there might have been a better way to wrap up the first season. It ended up being a fun episode. I love the character of Dr. Jenner and thought Noah did an amazing job, but there were things in that episode that I think seem very much not of the Walking Dead world. So anyway,
like what, taking a hot shower?
I know, I was like, yeah.
Getting drunk.
And I mean, and as far as like the we're all infected thing, I feel like that would have just naturally come out anyways, because you would have had someone that would have died of a heart attack or whatever, and the person would be grieving over their dead body, and then all of a sudden you hear, you know what I mean? It's like they never got bit. What the fuck? And people would have started figuring out, because obviously not everybody met Dr. whatever the hell his name is from the CDC. Jenner. Right? No, not everybody met Jenner, right? So, and not everybody met Rick for Rick to tell them what Jenner told him. So people naturally found out anyways that you have to either shoot them in the head or whatever after they die, even if they died of natural causes. You still have to prevent them from reanimating. So people found out anyways.
Yeah.
So us finding out at that point in time, in my opinion, just makes sense.
Yeah, and then he goes on again to say, after I keep reading farther down, he says that in the comics he tried to be very careful to stay away from what was going on in other parts of the world. So that part too, he said, but the fact that France is mentioned in that episode and other things like that, I probably would have steered away from that stuff if I had to do it all over again. So partly the telling Rick, learning that, but also just the mentioning, which they used it to their advantage, just set up everything that we see now. They use that and then the scene later in at the end of World Beyond, that says Daryl Dixon, and what's going on there. So I mean, I don't know, I thought it was amazing to learn that. It's like, what? That's
I wonder if you asked him now 11 years later and knowing like everything, how everything went, and the fact that they used the France thing to their advantage, and was it the end of World Beyond where we see the walker runs out the door and like you just see the fist like through the door, you know what I mean? We see things like that. We see obviously stuff with Daryl Dixon. I wonder if his opinion would be different now because of the way that the AMC was able to spin it.
Very possibly.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I mean, I loved how that whole thing progressed into Daryl Dixon. That we actually.
So he's saying he wished it would have never happened at all, or just later in the series. Because
I mean, better way to wrap up the first season is what he said.
Okay.
And it goes on to say it was great, fun episode and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see.
I mean, to say that, like, in my opinion, like to say that he kind of wishes that if it would have never happened at all, I think is ridiculous, because that episode was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe to have it not that episode obviously, but some of the information from that episode later on down the road somehow divulged through maybe a book that was found, or
some way to,
I don't know, someone was able to get an old computer working or something, whatever, while they were scavenging or something. But to say that that episode, like you said, I think gave everybody like this eye-opening wow, because that's what it did for me. I was like, oh shit, this is big, like this is big info.
So his first quote said, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't have done the CDC episode. That was the first quote in the article.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't know, if that means later. Nah, he basically sounds like no.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, and again, like Brian said, maybe his tune has changed over the years, but this was what,
11 years ago.
2014. Yeah. So, it's been a little bit of time has passed. So maybe now he feels differently. I don't know. Yeah. But I remember reading that somewhere, so I wanted to see if I could find it. So
if I ever met him, that'd be my question for him.
Yeah, there we go. You got a Robert Kirk. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's a great question, because I mean, lots of things have changed since then. And, but I agree with you, Chris. I thought it was an excellent episode. There was so much that went on, and
then you talk about the emotion of it, right? That the one test subject was Jenner's wife. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's like that emotion to it. That's like, holy shit,
Yeah, I can't imagine being that. I mean, it's the end of the world. Like, you want to find out as much as you can. You are a doctor. You're trained to do these things, but that's my wife or my husband or whoever. Yeah, that's tough. Even a colleague, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, yeah. But,
I think what I love about it, too, is the fact that, like, at least the mythos of zombies, and I'm just going to call walkers zombies because that's what they are. But in the mythos of zombies, it's like there's such a mysticism to it, or like a supernatural aspect to it, and that episode really kind of hones that in and says, no, there's a scientific reason why this is happening. What caused this, we don't know, but it is there is an actual biological scientific reason why this is happening, and this is the process.
Right.
You know, and seeing like the person's like seeing the brain scan, and then like you seeing the lights diminish, and then the reanimation was so cool. I like
cool.
the science nerd in me was like, holy shit, that's awesome. You know.
And that's part of the episode that I think where everybody was like, that's intriguing. You know, that pulled you into the show.
Yeah.
You know, and then you know you got to see them be human again, take showers, hang out in groups, you know, drink and whatever, and kind of like let the guard down because you're protected, you're safe or whatever. And then to find out that you're on a ticking clock.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck. Yeah. Here we go again. But that's what makes the show great, you know, like you can't stay in one spot for too long.
Yeah, you can't get too comfortable.
You know, until where we are now, where apparently they've been able to do that. So. But yeah, I mean, you know, the rewatch, it helps you see obviously new things. It helps you, you know, like like all the questions, like, you know, were all those real walker, you know, were all those people, or was any of that digital, you know, when they did the first season and stuff. Because I do remember talking to, you know, people like Eric and some other people that we know and stuff when they did the original calls and stuff, and they had hundreds, thousands of people auditioning, thousands.
Yeah.
So I would, you know, that would be something I would love to be able to find out and ask, and be like, you know, how many of those people's in the first season or so was any of it digital?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So, but.
And we forgot to mention Jim. Jim was also introduced in this episode, which he was in it very briefly with Dale there, you know, at the but it's like then his story will get a little, you know, again, he's not doesn't have longevity in this series, but he does have a, you know, kind of, you know, significant role in a episode or two or whatever. So that was another one that we got introduced to in this episode.
That's true. Yeah. It is interesting doing the rewatch and like just having the overarching understanding of what happens at the end of the show and like everything that happened leading up to that, and like it helps you put things that are happening in the early episodes in perspective. You know what I mean? Like, and like, because you know how these characters think now, and we know how they act, and we know like the relationships that they will form, and being able to see them now, it's like, oh, okay, I see how we got there. You know, it helps you see things in a different perspective, which is kind of cool.
Right.
And you know all their fates. You know, It's like, oh, I know where your story's going, or I know, you know, whatever, good or bad, we know where they're going. One thing that I didn't ever notice before watching this episode was how Amy reacted when she comes back with the mushrooms or whatever she had in the bucket, and then all of a sudden, then Lori leaves again right away, you know, because she's supposed to be meeting Shane. But Amy, you know, she kind of looks at her like almost like she suspects that something's happening, because Lori mentions Shane. I can't remember exactly what she says, but they were trying to decide if how do you know if the mushrooms are, you know, edible or whatever, not poisonous. And she's like, well, there's one sure way I know, or whatever. And then something said about Shane, but I can't now remember if she says we have to ask Shane, or I don't remember.
Yeah, like we'll ask Shane when he gets back or something like that.
Yeah, but then she grabs the empty bucket and goes off to look for more mushrooms. It's like, and Amy's like washing or doing whatever she's doing, and she looks up at her like, and maybe it was just me overthinking because I know what's coming or whatever. But I just thought that was interesting because I hadn't noticed it before, so I don't know.
I've often wondered like who in the group knew what was going on.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure Dale did, because Dale
100%. Yeah,
he's eagle eye, man. He's watching. Yeah,
yeah, he knew everything that was going on. But I feel like there was definitely some suspicion there for a lot of people.
There would have to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Just But
I
yeah,
mean-
so I mean, it was a great episode and leads into another good episode. So
Yeah.
a lot happens in the next episode.
We'll leave everybody a little suspense too, and let them know that this is episode 197, and we're working on something for the big 200.
Yes.
So definitely stay posted after look for announcements and everything. We're seeing we can drum up for everybody.
We're cooking up some stuff.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around 200 episodes.
Well, and think about it. Like I saw when I was looking through them again, I was trying to remember which episode Ryan first came on, what number it was. Now I can't remember. I should have wrote it down. And then we go for a little, like all the evolution of the whole thing. How it was Matt and Chris, and then Ryan came along, and Matt left, and then
yeah.
And I mean, we've come a long way from a camcorder and a tripod in Chris's living room.
Those days were brutal. They were not easy days.
I mean, I remember there was Chris and I. We worked a lot of overtime at that point in our careers, and our job was so short staffed. So there was a lot of overnights where Chris and I would work together. And like Chris was the supervisor and I was the dispatcher. So like we would be at his house, and we'd film the episode, and then he would have to get it onto the computer, start the upload, and then he and I would drive to work.
Yeah.
And we'd get off at 8 a.m. I would go home, he'd go to his house, and it would still be like uploading to YouTube. And he'd be like, "Oh, it's got half an hour left." And I'm like, "Holy shit," And it was that was brutal, man.
Yeah, we didn't know anything back then.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Zimmerman, man, shout out to our boy Peter, because he was the first guest that we had, and he said to us, he was like, "Have you guys ever thought about doing it live?" And we're like, "Huh?" Like, you can do that, And I mean, I remember how, if you go back and watch our first live with Peter Zimmerman, it was brutal. I mean, we had the computer set up in front of us. We had the flat screen TV behind us. We had a cord,
the camera in front of us.
Oh yeah, with the camera behind the computer facing us and the TV. And we had an HDMI wire. Oh my god! Running to the TV. I had an
Ethernet and HDMI wire running 100 foot across my house.
Oh my god! Because like we needed a strong connection to the internet.
Yeah.
And it was about 100 feet of Ethernet probably.
Yeah, about.
Oh my god! And it's so weird to reflect on, because we've come so far.
Now all you have to do is click a couple buttons.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, I don't know if I watched the absolute first one with Matt and Chris, but I know I was there at the very beginning, and I remember the first time Ryan came on, because I had been watching it, and then because it was Halloween, and you were doing supernatural, or you were doing ghost hunting thing or something. Yeah. So I remember those, on this side of the, watching what's going on, and then, and then here we are.
Yeah. Because I mean, the first, aren't the very first couple just audio?
No, I think they're the ones. No, they're on
the ones that are audio. I don't even know where they are.
Yeah, so I don't know where those are. But
they're like the lost audio books.
Yeah, on YouTube.
The Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to find the beast mode.
I'm pretty sure that they're on Audacity somewhere.
I'll have to look those up. That'd be cool.
Yeah, we had nothing but audio recording.
Yeah, I'll have to share. Yeah, I was going through them, and I just looking at all the different guests and things, and so I was like, I'm going to start sharing some of these older ones, because who knows what they'll be like, but it'll just be fun to see these guests early on and everything. So there's a lot of content. It's a lot of fun to look through it and see all the, I mean, it's just all the, I'm like, that's right, that person was on, and and then I remember like at the height of everything before COVID and stuff, man, our chat was nuts. We couldn't even keep up with people, because it was just crazy. All of the chat stuff. I remember texting you guys, or like, forget how we did that, but I remember you guys were trying to focus on what you're doing, and I'm watching the chat for questions.
Yes.
Was I texting? Maybe I was texting you, Tiffany asked this and Linda asked this. so that you didn't miss them.
And then you started sending them in a document. And
That's right. We did a Google Doc because it would update
Yep.
every time. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, we progressed.
Holy
God.
shit! Yeah.
But
I remember when I used to have to read the chat and handwrite the questions, and I'd hand them to Chris while he's talking to the guest, and I'm like,
yeah, that's when. Yeah, then I started helping a little. That way,
Yep.
I could watch the struggle going on.
Oh my God.
you know, it's funny too because it's like not only going back to watch The Walking Dead, but it's made me reflect on just how lucky and blessed that way we've all been, right?
Yeah.
The things that this show and to some people it is just a show, but to us it's not. You know, this show has provided me with some of the best memories that I have ever had. You know,
Yeah.
I remember one of my favorite memories was I want to say Walker Stalker Chicago, and Chris and I were at the Halloween party afterwards, and I was like, all right, man, I gotta go use the bathroom, and he's like, all right. So I walk out to the hallway and I use the bathroom and I walk out, and I said, all I hear is, holy shit, look at this guy, and it's Xander Berkeley and Seth Gilliam.
Mhm.
And Seth comes up and like daps me up, and I'm like, hey, what's going on, guys? And they're like, oh, we're just going to the party, blah blah. I was like, oh yeah, I'm in there too. And they're like, oh, are you in the VIP section? I'm like, do I look like I'm a VIP? No. And Seth goes, no, fuck that, you're coming with me. And I'm like, what? And we had a wristband at the time, and so we get to the Walker Stalker employee who was checking people in for the VIP thing, and she checks in Seth and Xander. And Seth just turns around and looks to the Walker Stalker employee and just points at me and goes, he's with me. You mind upgrading his wristband? And so they cut my regular one off, my general admission one off, and put a VIP one on. So it was weird because like the VIP section, like we were herded like cattle. Like there was like a fence.
Yeah.
And so I see Chris on the floor. I'm like, hey, Chris! And he goes, what the fuck? And so I look at the security guy and I'm like, hey, that's my buddy, blah blah blah, whatever. And he like the security guy had seen me with Xander and Seth, and he goes, all right. And Chris came in, and I'm like, this is fucking wild. Like you know what I mean? It's just the whole thing.
I have a picture from that night with Greg Nicotero too.
Yeah, and we also have one of you, me, and I want to say Jake.
Yeah.
Was it Jake? There was one with you, me, and Jake, and I think there was also one with you, me, and Jeremy. There's a couple pictures from that night. I know that for a fact.
I just have to find the Nicotero one, and then I know.
That's also the night that Chris and I met Chandler's parents.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Mr.
Yeah.
and Mrs. Briggs.
Yeah, telling us about that.
Yep, you're right, Jeremy. Yep, there's.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's Palco.
Yep.
And then Lou.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Oh, I love Lou. He's so cool.
Yeah.
Such a sweet dude.
He is.
Dude.
He is.
Wow.
Yeah.
How? Yeah. Time. And like you said, Ryan, it's just crazy to look back and just see, all the friends we've made because of this series, the different opportunities we've had, doing the podcast, doing interviews. I mean, my writing. I mean, it's like I like this show, and you're gonna let me write about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
That was Georgia. Ryan, that was Georgia.
That was Georgia. You're right.
That was
Okay.
Right, it was Georgia.
in Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah, 2018 in Georgia.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, man. We were youngins.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy to think that was
I
7
was a
years
youngin.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's cool too because, like, for me, like on a personal note, like, Chris can attest to this because he really knew me before all this, and like I was just a very timid, shy person before this, and like having these experiences, kind of like, and I'll give Chris credit where credit's due because Chris kind of like wouldn't allow me to like stay in my bubble, like
Puss out.
I was a wallflower, I was okay being in the background, and Chris would drag me to do these things, and I'd be like, no, I'm gonna stay in the hotel. He's like, no, the fuck you're not. Like, you're coming with us.
Yeah.
And it just.
Well, didn't you take your first plane flight with me?
My second.
Was that with
my
me?
second, yeah. My first was when I went to Oregon.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So your second.
But I also went to Oregon on that flight because I knew that I had Atlanta coming up, and I kind of had to get over my fears anyways of flying. So yeah. And now I've flown dozens of times now.
everywhere.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's cool because it's like, for me, like, this is the time that I've spent with this show and everything associated with it is probably the most amount of personal growth that I've had in my entire life.
Yeah.
Well, it's exciting. So yeah, everybody keep watching. We got the 200th episode coming soon, and we hope to have some exciting things happen for that.
That's right.
So be watching our socials for all that, and give us a like, give us a follow. We appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. We will
subscribe.
We'll more than likely be back next week, same time, same place, same channel. With episode 3. What the hell's the title of episode 3?
Dang.
You banged my wife.
Yeah, you banged my wife, and now I'm ticked off.
No, it's actually called Modern Family.
Oh, the next one, Tell It to the Frogs, because that's Daryl's first episode.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
I have to remember that, but yeah.
Right.
It is. It's a great episode. I mean, well, they all are, but this one has a lot of good stuff happening in it. So we can meet Carol and Daryl in this one.
Yeah, 2 of the only people who are still alive from that group.
Yeah. God.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
Well, we'll be back.
Think we're all set.
Yes, sir.
All right.
You
have a good night,
work,
everybody.
so lucky
Bye.
you.
Yeah, lucky me, right? I get to work on the overnight. Ooh, yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Later, people.
Renee, Chris, and Ryan going live. Best podcast, Beauty and the Beast. Sit back and catch a vibe. Oh yeah, we talking zombies and apocalypses and all those things you like. Going beast mode, and if you didn't know, it's Peter Z up on the mic. Whoa, hey, TWD family, grab the snacks about the pantry and subscribe and like if you can, please. Or those walkers eat you like some candy. Hey, okay. You at the right place at the right time. No one does it better, that's the bottom line. Beauty and the Beast, this is prime time. Let's go.